Hello friends, myself Professor Shantaya Gurmat, Department of Botany, MGVC Arts, Commerce and Science College, Mudebihala, Karnataka State. Friends, today's class we discuss about morphology of angiosperms. The fifth one, the flower. The reproductive structure until in the flowering plants are phanerogams. These reproductive structures or sporophylls are found to be born in a specialized shoot called the flower. Flower is the most conspicuous structure in the angiosperms, and the evolution of the angiosperms means mainly the evolution of this flower structure. The flower is a specialized shoot of limited growth, reproductive organs, microphylls or stamens, megasporophylls or carpels, or any one. Often with two accessory whorls, the calyx and corolla, sometimes only one or even none at all. The flower serves as a means of sexual reproduction. A typical or complete flower consists of four whorls, two lower accessory whorls, calyx and corolla, and two upper essential or reproductive whorls, androecium and gynoecium. The individual units of calyx are sepals, of a corolla, petals, of an androecium, stamens or microsporophylls, and of gynoecium, carpels or megasporophylls. The term perianth is collectively used for undifferentiated calyx and corolla, and its members are called tepals. The four whorls develop in ascending order from the swollen, suppressed end, thalamus, of the floral axis or stalk, that is pedicel. The androecium is of the male whorl, and each of its stamen differentiated into a filament, anther, and connective. Gynoecium is the female whorl differentiated into ovary, style, and stigma. Flowers having both androecium and gynoecium are said to be bisexual or hermaphrodite, and those having only one of them, unisexual, either staminate, that is male, or pistillate, female. A plant bearing both male and female flowers are said to be monoecious. Example, gourd. And a plant bearing either male flowers or female flowers is said to be dioecious. Example, mulberry. Then we discuss about thalamus. The thalamus, also called torus or receptacle, is the suppressed swollen end of the flower axis on which are inserted the floral leaves, sepals, petals, stamens, and carpels. In most flowers, the thalamus is very short, but in a few cases it becomes elongated, and then it shows distinct nodes and internodes. Thus, the internodes between the calyx and corolla, when an elongated, is known as anthophore. As in silence, the gynandropsis and fashion flower, the intermediate between the corolla and the androecium, is considerably elongated, as known as the androphore or gynophore. The caparis, the axis between the androecium and the gynoecium, is elongated and is known as the gynophore. When both androphore and gynophore develop, they are together known as androgynophore, as in gynandropsis. Position of floral leaves on the thalamus, normally calyx, corolla, androecium, and gynoecium of a flower, lie on the thalamus in their proper sequence. The relative position as seen in the flowers of different plants are of three kinds. Number one, hypogyny, perigyny, and epigyny. First, we discuss about hypogyny. In a hypogynous flower, the thalamus in conical, convex, flat, and the ovary occupies the highest position on the thalamus, while the stamens, petals, and sepals are separately and successively inserted below the ovary. The ovary is said to be superior, and rest of the floral members inferior. The best examples are mustard, brinjal, China rose, etc. Then we discuss about perigyny. In a perigynous flower, the margin of the thalamus grows upward to form a cup-shaped structure called the calyx tube, enclosing the ovary but remaining free from it and carrying with the sepals, petals, and stamens. The ovary is said to be half inferior. The classical examples are pea, bean, and goldmore, etc. The lastly, we discuss about epigyny. In a epigynous flower, the margin of the thalamus grows further upward, completely enclosing the ovary and getting fused with it, and bears the sepals, petals, and stamens above the ovary. The ovary in this case is said to be inferior, and the rest of the floral members superior. The best examples are sunflower, cucumber, and apple. Then we discuss about bracts. They are special leaves from the axil of which one or more flowers arise. Bracts vary in shape, size, color, and duration. First one is foliaceous or leafy bracts. These are green, flat, and leaf-like in appearance, as in Adathoda and Acalypha. And spathe. This is a large, sometimes very large and commonly board-shaped bract enclosing a cluster of flowers or even in inflorescence. Best example is spadix. The common examples are banana, aroids, palms, and maize. Then petaloid bracts. These are brightly colored bracts looking somewhat like petals, as in glory of the garden. The classical example is bougainvillea. Fourth one is involucre. This is one or more whorl of bracts, normally green color, present around a cluster of flowers. The involucre is characteristic of composite members. Examples are sunflower and marigold, etc. Then fifth one is epicalyx. This is one or more whorls of bracteoles developing at the base of the calyx. The epicalyx is characteristic features of Malvaceae family. The classical examples are China rose and cotton, etc. Then scaly bracteole at the base of the individual florets of the head or capitulum of Compositae family. There is often thin membranous oval-shaped scaly bracteole. The lastly we discuss about glumes. These are spatial bracts, small, dry, and scaly, found in the spikelet. The examples are graminae. Then we discuss about calyx. This is usually green sepaloid and sometimes colored petaloid. In its symmetry, the calyx may be regular, zygomorphic, or irregular. It may again be polysepalous. Polysepalous means sepals are free. Or gamosepalous means sepals are united. The calyx may be modified into pappus, as in Compositae and Musunda. Then we will discuss about corolla. The corolla may also be regular or radially symmetrical or irregular. The corolla may be polypetalous, means petals are free. Gamopetalous means petals are fused or united. Then we discuss about forms of corolla. First one is regular and polypetalous. In this, number one, cruciform corolla. The cruciform corolla consists of 4 regular for free petals, each differentiated into a claw and a limb, and these are arranged in the form of a cross as in Cruciferae family. The classical examples are mustard, radish, and cabbage, etc. And Caryophyllaceous. This form of corolla consists of 5 petals with comparatively long claws, and the limbs of the petals are placed at right angles to the limbs of the petals are placed at right angles to the claws, as in pink. The best example is dianthus. The third one is rosaceous. This forms consists of 5 petals as in previous case, but these are very short claws or none at all, and the limbs spread regularly outwards as in rose and tea. The second one is regular and gamopetalous. The number one is campanulate or bell-shaped. When the shape of corolla resembles that of a bell, as in gooseberry, bellflower. Second one is tubular, and the corolla is cylindrical or tube-like, that is more or less equally expanded from base to apex, as in the central florets of sunflower. It is said to be tubular. Then the third one is infundibuliform or funnel-shaped. When the corolla is shaped like a funnel, that is shaped like a funnel, that is gradually spreading outwards, form a narrow base as in the thorn apple. Examples are Duranta and Ipomia. Fourth one is rotate or wheel-shaped. When the tube of the corolla is narrow and short, its limb is at right angle to the tube, the corolla having more or less the appearance of a wheel. Examples are jasmine and brinjal. Salver-shaped or hypocrateriform. In a rotate type, the corolla tube is often seen to be comparatively long, and the corolla as a whole more or less salver-shaped, as in Ixora and Vinca. Third one is zygomorphic and polypetalous. Papilionaceous or butterfly-like. In general appearance is like that of butterfly. It is composed of 5 petals, the outermost of which is the largest and is known as the standard or vexillum. The lateral ones, partially covered by the former, are somewhat like the 2 wings of a butterfly and are known as wings or alae. And the 2 innermost ones, apparently united to form boat-shaped cavity, are the smallest and are together known as keel or carina. The best example is pea and bean. The third one is zygomorphic and gamopetalous. Number one is bilabiate or two-lipped. In this form, the limb of the corolla is divided into 2 portions or lips, the upper and lower, with the mouth gaping wide open. Example is ocimum. Second one is personate or masked. This is also called lipped like previous one, but in this case the mouth of the corolla, the projection of the lower lip closing the mouth of the corolla, is known as the palate. The third one is ligulate or strap-shaped. When the corolla forms a short narrow tube below but is flattened above like a strap, as in the outer florets of sunflower, it is said to be ligulate. Then we discuss about the estivation, the mode of arrangement of the sepals or petals, more particularly the later in a floral bud, with respect to the members of the some whorl, calyx or corolla, is known as estivation. The first one is the valvate estivation. When the members of a whorl make a contact with each other by their margins, or when they lie close to each other without overlapping, as in Annona, and another example is Calotropis. Second one is twisted or contorted. When one margin of the sepal or petal overlaps that of the next one, and the other margin overlaps the third, as in China rose and cotton. The third one is imbricate estimation. When one of the sepal or petals is internal overlapping on both the margins, one of them is external, and each of the remaining ones overlaps one margin and overlaps the next one on the other margins. The example is cassia. Next one is vexillary estivation. When there are 5 petals, of which the posterior one is the largest and almost cover the 2 lateral petals, and the later in their turn nearly overlaps the 2 anterior or smallest petals. Vexillary estivation is universally found in all Papilionaceae family. The example is pea and bean. Then we discuss about placentation. Placenta is a ridge of tissue parenchymatous outgrowth in the inner wall of the ovary, to which the ovules remain attached. Then we discuss about types of placentation. Number 1, marginal placentation. In marginal placentation, the ovary is one chambered and the placenta develops along the junction of the 2 margins of the carpel called the ventral suture, as in Leguminosae. Examples are pea, bean and cassia, etc. Then axial placentation. In axial placentation, the ovary is 2 or more chambered, usually as many as the number of carpels, and the placenta is bearing the ovules developed from the central axis corresponding to the confluent margins of carpels, and hence the name axial, as in lemon, orange and tomato, etc. Then we discuss about parietal placentation. In the parietal placentation, the ovary is one chambered and the placenta bearing the ovules develop on the inner wall of the ovary. There corresponds to the confluent margins of the carpels, as in papaw, poppy and argemone. Then central placentation. In central placentation, the septa or partition walls in the young ovary soon break down so that the ovary becomes one chambered and the placenta bearing the ovules develop from the central axis, as in dianthus or pink. Then free central placentation. In free central placentation, arises from the base of the ovary, projects far into cavity as a swollen central axis and bears the ovules all over its surface. Since the placenta lies free in the single chamber of the ovary, the placentation is said to be free central. Example is primrose and primula. Then basal placentation. In basal placentation, the ovary is unilocular and the placenta develops directly on the thalamus, bearing a single ovule at the base of the ovary, as in Compositae. Examples are sunflower and marigold. Then we discuss about superficial. In superficial placentation, the ovary is multilocular, carpels bearing numerous, as in axial placentation, but the placentae in this case develop all around the inner surface of the partition walls, as in water lily, nymphea. Then we discuss about attachment of the filament to the anther. There are 4 principal types of the filament attached to the anther. Number 1, basifixed or innate. When the filament is attached to the base of the anther, as in mustard, reddish. Next, adnate. When the filament runs up the whole length of the anther from base to the apex. Examples are Michaelia and Magnolia. Then dorsifixed. when it is attached to the back of the anther, as in fashion flower. Lastly, we discuss about versatile. When it is attached to the back of the anther at one point only, so that the latter can swing freely in the air. The classical examples are grasses and palm. Then we discuss about cohesion and adhesion. The term adhesion means adnate or adherent, used to designate the union of members of different whorls, petals with stamens with carpels. Then cohesion means connate and coherent designate the union members of the same whorl. Example, stamens with each other and carpels with each other. Cohesion of stamens. The stamens may either remain free or they may be united. Number one, monoedelphous stamens. Mono means single, edelphous means brother or bundle. When all the stamens are united into a single bundle, but the anthers are free, the stamens are said to be monoedelphous. Example, Malvaceae family. Example, China rose and cotton. Then diedelphous stamens. When the filaments are united into two bundles, the anthers remaining free, the stamens are said to be diedelphous, as in Papilionaceae family, pea bean. In there, altogether 10 stamens, of which 9 are united into one bundle. The 10th is free, that is 9 plus 1. Then polyadelphous stamens. When the stamens are united into a number of bundles, more than 2, but the anthers are free, the stamens are said to be polyadelphous, as in silk cotton, castor, lemon, etc. Then syngenesious stamens. When the stamens are united together into a bundle or tube, the filaments remaining free, the stamens are said to be syngenesious. The examples are sunflower and marigold. Then synandrous stamens. When the stamens are united throughout their whole length by both the filaments, the anthers, they are said to be synandrous, as in Cucurbitaceae. Then adhesion of stamens. Epipetalous, when they are attached to the corolla wholly or partially by their filaments, as in datura, ixora, potato and sunflower. Epiphyllous, when attached to the perianth, as in Liliaceae. Gynandrous, when united with the carpels, either wholly or by their anthers only, as in Calotropis and orchids. Then length of stamens. Didynamous condition. In a labiating, example osmium, there are 4 stamens, of which 2 are long and 2 are short. Such stamens are said to be didynamous. Then lastly we discuss about tetradynamous condition. In crucifer family, the examples are mustard and radish. There are 6 stamens, of which the inner 4 are long and the outer 2 short. Such stamens are said to be tetradynamous. Okay. Thank you friends. We meet in the next